This ain't a battle. People know this is not a battle at all.
Is it still a brotherhood? Is it still family?
Nah, it definitely ain't no brotherhood.
Definitely not.
Definitely ain't no brotherhood. It been not no brotherhood. You heard?
Before Camron's mom passed, she looked him dead in the eyes and said something chilling. "That man is gonna try to kill you." And she wasn't talking about some random street beef or rap drama. She meant Jim Jones, the same man Cam once called family, not a diss track warning, a real-life warning from his own mother. And now, everything she feared is creeping to the surface. 50 Cent tried to warn us. MaxB was screaming it years ago. But nobody ever guessed that the biggest threat to Cam's life would come from someone he broke bread with. So what was Jim really after? Cam's throne, his legacy, or just cold revenge from the past he never got over? 'Cause let's be real, that tension between Jim and Cam, it's been bubbling for years. But now, insiders are saying Cam's mom, Frederica Giles, knew the truth long before the public did. She told him straight up Jim wasn't to be trusted, that he was dangerous. And this wasn't just any woman speaking. This was the woman who built Cam's foundation. If you know anything about Camron, you know Frederica wasn't just his mother. She was his backbone, his muse, his biggest supporter. He rapped about her, shouted her out in interviews, even brought her out in public with him. She was part of his image, his sound, his hustle. So when she told him Jim had dark energy, that wasn't gossip, that was a warning shot. And now, looking back, every piece fits like a puzzle. 50 saw it coming. MaxB lived through it. Both of them said Jim was jealous from day one, and folks ignored it. But now, it's hitting like a slap in the face. Even 50 Cent broke it down when he chopped it up with Cam on It Is What It Is. He called out Jim's shady moves during the Dipset vs. G-Unit era. Said dude wasn't even built like a rapper. He just craved that power. Wanted the boss role without earning it. And let's not forget, when 50 brought Jim on stage during the heat of his beef with Cam, Jim showed up like it was his time to shine, like he was claiming the crown for himself. That wasn't loyalty. That was strategy. This man been playing chess in the background for years. People thought it was just little sneak disses, weird interviews, or some quiet money drama, but it was way deeper than that. On Rap Life Radio, Jim straight up said there's no brotherhood left with Cam. No brotherhood? After everything they went through, the albums, the fame, the trenches? That one cold line made it crystal clear. There are no more rules, no more boundaries. If Frederica saw that back then, how many others ignored the signs? Now everybody's bringing up MaxB again, and rightfully so. Max was there from the jump when Jim started making noise. And what happened? Max got cut off, underpaid, and pushed to the side like yesterday's news. MaxB always said Jim Jones was a snake, used people up, sold dreams, then dipped. Most folks brushed it off like Max was bitter. But now, with shots getting thrown at Cam from every angle, Max ain't sounding mad anymore. He's sounding like a prophet. And speaking of shots, let's rewind to that wild DC incident. Back in 2005, Camron was in the city for Howard's homecoming, cruising through the streets in a flashy Lamborghini. But then, boom! 2 masked men rolled up on him at a red light. No warning, no words. They just tried to jack his ride. Cam didn't flinch. He told him no, and just like that, he got blasted in both arms. Even shot up, he managed to drive himself to the hospital, bleeding, hurting, but alive. Back then, the media tried to call it a carjacking gone wrong. But the hood? Nah, we never bought that. The whole thing felt way too targeted, like someone wasn't after the car, they were after him. Even the Associated Press later came out and said this wasn't your typical robbery. And now, with Frederica's words bouncing back in everyone's heads, that DC shooting don't feel random. It feels personal. Like somebody tried to send a message and missed. If there really was beef behind the scenes, if Jim had jealousy boiling under the surface and the right people around him, then who's to say that hit didn't come from somewhere close? Ain't no proof on the table just yet, but word in the streets is Cam surviving that night wasn't just a miracle. It was a warning, a clue that someone in his own circle was playing dirty. See, envy don't always show its face loud. Sometimes it hides, it waits, patient, silent, watching for a slip-up, a weak moment, an opening. And maybe that's why Cam's mama, Frederica, said what she said. Maybe she saw Jim's switch flip years before the rest of us caught on. Maybe that red light in DC wasn't random. Maybe that was supposed to be the end of Cam's story. But guess what? He survived. And now, all these years later, things ain't just resurfacing, they're falling apart. Jim Jones moving like a man still stuck in 2004, like he's trying to rewrite a chapter that's already been closed. But the streets? The block already knows the truth. And now, nobody's sugarcoating a damn thing anymore. People ain't holding back anymore. They calling it straight. Jim Jones out here acting bitter, loud, and pushing 50 while still trying to move like he's 23. One comment hit hard saying, "Bro too old to still be this petty." And let's be real, if Cam never brought him in, Jim probably would have been in Harlem selling chopped cheese and bags of mid. No real rap skills, no major moves, no education, not a kingpin, just another dude trying to live out his lyrics. They saying Cam gave Jim a blueprint, a shot, a purpose, a real name in rap. And instead of building on that with respect, Jim spent the next 20 years trying to outshine the very man who lit his fire. That ain't hunger, that's straight up betrayal. Jim was never built for the throne. He just wanted the seat, wanted the shine without putting in the work. And now that folks are seeing through the act, they calling him what he really is, a Judas, a bench warmer trying to run the game like a starter. He's a grown man throwing shots at the same ones who taught him the game. Even Jim himself admitted that Cam and Mace were the ones who taught him how to rap. He literally said, "They sat me down and showed me the magic to rap." Like, bruh, you said it out loud, and yet the math's still not mathin'. Cause now looking back, all that sneak dissin', that switching sides, those weird interviews, it wasn't random. The signs were always there, we just ignored them. But now, it's loud. People keep bringing up that shady moment when Jim linked up with 50 Cent, right when Dipset and G-Unit were in full-blown war. Jim runs to the enemy, cheesin' like it's all love, like it ain't deep. But to the real ones, that was the day Jim exposed himself. Cam peeped it, 50 peeped it, the whole culture peeped it. And 50, being the master chess player, used Jim like a pawn. He saw Jim's jealousy, knew his loyalty was shaky, and flipped him like a switch. Now fans are saying it loud. Everything 50 said back then makes perfect sense now. This was never just rap beef. It was about how fast Jim would flip once he wasn't the center of attention. Fast forward to today. Same moves, different year. Jim still dropping slick comments, still puffing his chest, still trying to convince the internet he's that guy. But the streets, they ain't buying it. The fans, they ain't fooled. One comment nailed it. "Jim, you been cooked. How you gonna act like a boss when the same dudes you dissed are the ones who taught you to rap?" LOL. If that ain't facts, what is? And now, Jim out here trying to rewrite history like the internet got amnesia. Posting clips, throwing shade, acting like he was the brains behind Dipset, like we didn't all watch Cam build that whole wave from the ground up. From the pink fits to the platinum hits, Cam was the architect. Jim, he played his role, but let's not act like he was calling shots. And the wild part? Jim been moving slick for years. Folks digging up old interviews where he low-key threw Cam under the bus, talking greasy while smiling in public, saying things like, "I was always the real boss," or "I kept the crew together." But behind the scenes, he was pushing division, planting seeds, trying to slide into the spotlight Cam earned. People now saying Jim had a slow grind of sabotage. Not loud, not messy, but strategic. Little by little, pulling away from Cam, forming alliances, reshaping the narrative, until one day he could say, "I did it all myself." But fans ain't stupid. They remember who really brought Harlem to the front lines. And then there's that whole Verzoos situation. Cam showed up ready to celebrate the legacy. Jim, he showed up with ego, trying to steal every second of shine, throwing off the energy, stepping in front of the camera every chance he got. And when the crowd started booing, he acted shocked, but the street saw it clear. It wasn't about unity no more. It was about control. Now fans are looking at Jim's every move sideways. One post, one tweet, one little interview clip, and people start connecting the dots. Like that time Jim tried to clown Cam for his business ventures, saying he was washed, chasing brands. But guess what? Cam's been flipping his image into gold, making major deals, launching platforms, running podcasts, all while keeping his name clean. Meanwhile, Jim's still out here chasing viral moments. It's almost like Jim can't stand that Cam's legacy stayed solid, while his own rep is cracking. And the more he tries to flex, the more people remember. This man learned the game from Cam. Without that mentorship, without that cosign, he wouldn't even be in the room. Now the internet turning on him, and fast. One fan wrote, "Jim got that fake loyalty vibe, smiles when you up, plots when you not." And honestly, that's exactly the energy he'd been putting out. Folks tired of the act, tired of watching a man push 50 still acting like the underdog while throwing dirt on the same team that raised him. At this point, it's not about rap, it's about respect. And Jim, he losing that faster than he thinks. And now Cam, he's done playing nice. Word is, he's been sitting on a vault of receipts, screenshots, texts, unheard convos, all that. And insiders say Cam been real patient, but lately, he's been dropping little breadcrumbs. Quiet jabs on podcasts, slick bars in unreleased tracks, even some suspicious likes on shady posts. He's speaking without speaking, but trust, he's watching everything. People close to Cam say he's been calm, but it's that quiet energy that hits the hardest. He ain't yelling, he ain't ranting, he's letting the truth speak for itself. And the streets, they're starting to wake up. Fans now digging into the Dipset timeline like detectives, piecing together how Jim's moves always seem to benefit only Jim. Every brotherhood moment had a price. Every celebration turned into a spotlight fight. And let's not forget, Cam put Jim on multiple times, brought him into deals, gave him stage time, even helped clean up messes when Jim's image was taking hits. But instead of gratitude, Jim been moving like he's owed something, like the world forgot who made him hot in the first place. That's what really got folks fired up, cause it ain't just about rap anymore. It's about loyalty, and Cam kept it solid. Even Dipset fans who used to ride for Jim starting to flip. One said, "We wanted unity, but Jim wanted the throne." Now look, he's out here burning bridges he didn't even build. Another said, "Cam gave him the keys and he tried to change the locks." And the craziest part? Jim acting like he's still the victim. But here's the twist, this whole thing might not even be done. Word on the street is, Cam's got a project in the works, a tell-all style drop that might finally lay everything bare. Not just sneak disses, but the full story. And if that's true, it could end Jim's whole narrative in one blow. No cap. Some say Cam might be turning this whole mess into a documentary. Others say it's a solo album with nothing but coded shots. Either way, the tension's boiling and the fans are eating it up. They waiting, watching, refreshing their timelines like a storm's about to hit. Meanwhile, Jim out here scrambling, trying to control the narrative. More posts, more interviews, more denial. But the more he talks, the worse it looks. The more Cam stays quiet, the louder it all gets. Cause sometimes the realest power move is patience. And Cam been playing chess while Jim's been playing loud checkers. And when this next move drops, don't be surprised if everything changes overnight. And now, it's all coming to a head. The masks are off, the fake smiles faded, and the truth is loud. What started as brotherhood turned into a full-blown betrayal, and fans everywhere feel the shift. Jim Jones didn't just cross a line, he erased it. The legacy they built together, hanging by a thread. And the worst part? It didn't have to end like this. Two Harlem legends, a movement that shaped a whole generation. Dipset had the streets, the culture, the crown. But now, that crown's stained by jealousy, power plays, and ego trips. Cam stayed focused, stayed bossed up, stayed solid. Meanwhile, Jim been scrambling, trying to spin stories, buy time, and look like the victim. But the culture ain't blind anymore. The smoke too thick, the energy too off. Fans saying they feel the betrayal through the screen. One comment went viral. Jim really fumbled a dynasty over his own pride. Another said, "We watched a man go from student to snake." And with Cam playing it cool, letting the facts speak. The court of public opinion already decided who they riding with. And now whispers getting louder. Jim's next moves are under a microscope. Every collab, every post, every bar. People breaking it down like a crime scene. They looking for cracks, receipts, proof that this whole thing been a setup from the start. Even former Dipset affiliates are starting to choose sides, and it ain't looking good for Jimmy. Insiders say Cam's been getting calls. Industry folks, OGs, even label heads offering to back him if he decides to spill it all. Some even want a series. Others say a book deal is already being discussed. That's how deep this story runs. Cause this ain't just rap beef, it's betrayal, history, survival, and Harlem legacy. Cam don't need to yell, he don't need to explain. His silence speaks louder than Jim's whole campaign. He's already won in the eyes of real ones. Built a career, kept it clean, and never had to flip on his brothers to shine. But Jim? He chasing clout in circles, trying to rebrand pain as passion, and it's not working. This could have been a Dipset reunion, a new era, a grown man victory lap, but instead, it's turned into a cautionary tale about how envy eats from within. What's sad is that fans just wanted to see them win together. But now, they watching one king stay calm while the other self-destructs. Live on the timeline. No matter how many interviews Jim does, the damage is done. The people see it. Cam's mama saw it first. MaxB saw it next. 50 called it out. And now, everybody sees Jim Jones for who he really is. This ain't beef. This is exposure. And it might be too late for redemption. Let's keep it all the way real. There would be no Jim Jones the rapper without Mace polishing his flow and Cam handing him the whole playbook. Jim didn't climb. He was pulled up. But now he's online throwing shade at both of them. Like the internet forgot who gave him his shot. Nah. The people remember, they're watching, and they see everything. And then came that goofy boxing challenge. Jim, full gray in the beard, calling out Cam to a $10 million fight. That ain't hip-hop, that's straight-up desperation. A man so thirsty for relevance, he'd toss whatever legacy he got left into a dumpster just to trend on a Tuesday. Meanwhile, Cam ain't even flinching. Man's too busy bossing up, hosting his sports show, landing real deals, dropping fire freestyles with bars that still shake the culture. And Jim? He's out here yelling into mics at half-empty venues, trying to convince folks he still matters, while the whole block's already left the chat, even diehard Jim fans turning on him. One comment said it straight. I used to rock with Jimmy, but this is just sad. Team Cam all the way. The numbers don't lie. Cam's making real money and still building, while Jim's chasing trends and feeding into staged beefs for clout crumbs. What we're watching ain't just sad, it's embarrassing. A grown man unraveling on camera. Jim ain't just aging, he's regressing, fighting ghosts, arguing with his past, trying to compete with a legacy he never built. Cam never begged for respect, he earned it. Verse by verse, win by win, wave by wave. And Jim? Still trying to prove he matters in rooms where Cam is the blueprint? And then there's that 50 Cent moment when he labeled Jim Individual 1A. That wasn't just shade, that was a loaded shot. A throwback to those Fed rumors, and 50 doesn't throw punches for fun. He's spinning the block again in 2025 the same way he did in 2007, with receipts, reminders, and disrespect that cuts deep. Now Jim's stuck, dissing Cam in weak verses, clinging to recycled beef, and hoping someone will care enough to clap back. But nobody is. 'Cause there's nothing left to clap at. People ain't hating, they mourning what Jim could have been. He had the cosign, the buzz, the momentum. But he wanted more, wanted to be crowned without putting in king-level work. He didn't lose a rap battle, he lost the people. Now he's pacing through the ashes of the very empire Cam helped him build. Still searching, still talking, still spinning stories like we didn't all watch it fall apart in real time. And the question now ain't if Jim will come back, it's what else he's willing to burn down just to feel relevant. If you're still tuned in, make sure you hit that subscribe button, drop a comment below, and tell us what you think about this whole saga. We've got more heat coming, so don't miss it. This is CelebBeatz, where we drop facts, not fluff. See you in the next one.